I like to start with what I know and then work towards what I don't know. I wanted to take the formality of the house and the informality of the woods and kind of make the two combine. I'd like to show you how not to mulch around a tree. It's a step that I see very few landscapers doing. You want to make sure to have variation in your heights. Look at how lovely this is. We just cued the butterfly to come in. How we doing this morning, folks? It's Monday morning, and on the way to work today I did pick up some mulch, so hopefully we can start putting some mulch down this afternoon. And it's another hot day. We never really got that rain they were talking about over the weekend. There's supposed to be a chance of some thunder, and judging by how humid it is, I think we might actually get some. I did notice there's a sprinkler in the beds this morning, so it's nice to see a motivated homeowner keeping their new plantings watered. What we're going to be doing today is completing the prep before we go ahead and mulch in the screening planting, the hillside planting here. As I'm sitting here standing in front of the camera when I could be working, I remember, I've taken a course or two about, how to manage people. And, one of the things they say is if you train somebody and you take the time to train them right, it's going to pay you back infinitely in the production they're going to do, and knowing what to do. So as I'm sitting here going, geez, I'm losing more time on this job yet again, hopefully somebody out there is learning the way to do things, and maybe it's not going to benefit me directly, but hopefully it'll benefit you, whether you're doing some work around your own house, or if you have your own company or you work for somebody else, you'll kind of know what the steps are, what the next thing to do is. The first thing we're going to do when we're getting ready to put our gardens to bed is just go ahead and pull all the tags off the plants. So I've got a little Swiss Army knife here, so I just take out my sharper blade and we're just going to go around the bed and just cut off all the tags. Doesn't take long, but in the end it's going to look a lot more professional. Some customers, maybe once a year, actually pretty much never happens anymore, but you may have somebody who asks you to leave the tags on, and that's perfectly fine. But if somebody doesn't ask me about tags, I just go ahead and remove them all, because again, this is one of my pet peeves. It just doesn't look professional when a job is finished and you go out and you see all these tags floating all around. Now that we've got all our tags pulled, I'm just going to take my my metal rake here, and we're just going to go through the bed and smooth out the grade a bit. Now, when I'm doing the work in the beds, I usually pick up any rocks as I'm planting and as I go. So there's not a ton of rocks in this bed. And honestly, some beds there's more than others. The soil here was relatively good. There wasn't a ton of rocks anyways. But what I'm going to do is smooth it out. Any rocks, any clumps of grass, I'll rake and make into some piles. And if I can, I'll make the piles just inside where the edge is going to be. So that way, after I come through and cut my edge, it's going to just be one motion to go through, pick up the edgings and pick up the piles. In a larger bed that might not work, but just as you're making your piles, try to think ahead of where it's going to be the easiest to swing the wheelbarrow, go ahead and pick that stuff up. The other thing I'm going to do as I'm raking out the beds is I put my pruners on my hip. So if I see a shrub where maybe I broke a branch in the process of planting it, or maybe I bump it as I'm raking, I'll just go ahead and take my pruners out and clip those off. What'll happen is any of those branches that you caught, in another week or two, they're going to turn brown and look a little bit ugly. So we want to just go ahead and take those off right away so the landscape looks healthy and we won't get a phone call asking why some shrubs are dying. So I've gotten my beds raked out, and I can't imagine it took me more than 15 minutes tops to do that. And one thing I want to say, or a couple things, is when you're raking out your beds, try to plan ahead as far as which way you're going to be going when you pick the materials up. In the bed behind me, all the junk is going that way. So rather than leave piles at the back of the bed where I'd have to walk around the bed to get rid of it or walk through the bed, I just raked everything downhill where it's the most convenient to get rid of. And little things like that are going to save you a lot of time during the day and a lot of energy during the day, especially on days like today. The other thing to keep in mind is all we're trying to do when we're raking out the beds is get rid of the rocks and any grass clumps in the beds and maybe some roots or branches. So if you've got a metal rake and you notice that the pile is, has a lot of dirt in it, just kind of pull that pile a little bit more and you'll kind of lift up on your rake and you'll sift it out a little bit more, thereby leaving you with less dirt and more of just the debris you need to get rid of. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having, more dirt in these beds, assuming we're not burying plants. We're all set now to go ahead and start edging out our beds.